Hello everybody and welcome to another interview with a comedian for my blog A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog details the experiences of watching over 750 comedians and counting over the last 45 years. I'm genuinely absolutely delighted that today my guest is the fantastic comedian Mr. Tom Deacon. Yes! Hello Tom! How are you mate? You alright?
I'm very well. I walked off stage and thought I'd have a bit of, when you introduce me, I'll be in a different position.
I know you. Well, there we are. How are things? You all right?
I am very well. Listen, Rich, I want everyone who is listening and watching this right now to understand I've been the happiest bloke ever since I got a snood for Christmas. This is what I'm wearing. Some people might think, why is he wearing a bandana as if he's going to be a Western robber and get on a freight train? But no, I've got a snood.
Oh, that's fantastic. How cool is that?
Thank you very much. It's keeping my neck warm.
It's bitterly cold. I know it's freezing. I have a hot water bottle on my knee. It's so cold here. Anyway,
just one knee. Don't put both.
Enough of that. Thank you so much for talking to me. And the first question, the interview is going to be all about you. And the first question, we're going to go right back in your career. What inspired you to become a comedian?
Very good question. Very good question, Rich. Inspired me from watching comedy, and I guess as an audience member, I wanted to be like the guys on stage. I was like, wow, they have the whole command and attention of everybody in this room, and everyone likes them. I hadn't seen any comedians die at that stage, obviously, but I was like, I want to be that person. I want to be liked for being the humorous one. That's what everyone talks about. So I kind of wanted to be that. And when I told people when I was at secondary school, like, I want to be a stand-up comedian, they said, that sounds great. One problem, you are not funny. So I had to work on that, really. But yeah, it's true. I kind of wanted to be on stage performing. I liked doing drama stuff. But stand-up comedy, I was like, that's it. Like, there's nothing more scary than standing on stage on your own, but having the whole applaud of the whole room.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I wanted.
I always look at it as, I've seen so many, as I said at the start, over 750 and counting. I look at you as heroes as you walk out there, because you've got to get the audience within 30 seconds or a minute to either like you, endear you. You have to give them a great line, a great opening, and it's the hardest thing in the world to do. And but if you can do it well like you can, it's just the most wonderful thing to watch. So thank you very much.
Well, listen, here's my first thing, which I'm learning about Zoom gigs. Are we recording? That's my first question.
Yes.
To everybody. and that's the beauty of like, you just learn, as you're talking about when we walk on stage in an actual film. Like, are we ready? Am I ready to go on stage and perform and hopefully go down well to everyone in that room? That's always like, and I suppose that's what I love, is that live moment. We could crash and burn, and some audience members want to see that, and others want to just really be on part of the evening and just have such a great experience. And I still get that buzz, but I hope that it goes well as opposed to crash and burn, because they'll probably still enjoy it, and that'd be something they can tell everybody. Oh, did you see that comedian yesterday? You should have seen him. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's the beauty of being live as well. Anything can happen. That's what I love about it. You just do not know what to expect, and if it goes so well, as I say, it's just the best thing in the world. Can you describe your first ever gig, please?
Well, here's my question back to you, right? Because I'm normally the one interviewing, but first proper stand-up comedy night or first open mic night?
For me,
yeah, as in terms of what would you like? Because to give a little backstory, when I knew I wanted to do stand-up comedy, I decided I'd go along to an open mic night where they have musicians on, poets and stuff like that.
Well,
I don't really classify that as a proper stand-up gig, though.
It is, because you're well, it is and it isn't, because you're testing whether or not you can do it. I've been to many. I've supported many a stand-up comedian at a free comedy night. So let's do both. Let's do both.
Okay. All right. I remember distinctly. I was at college.
Yeah.
And there was a gig down in Southampton called the Talking Heads, which had an open mic night on. They had a traffic light on the side of the stage that you would have. Green light would be lit for the first 6 minutes. Then it would go to amber for the last 2.
Wow.
And then it would go red, as in, there's your 10 minutes. Don't waste anybody else's time.
And no going back.
Yeah. And I just remember going on stage, and on the journey down there, I had a piece of paper, I think it was the back of an envelope, and I'd written all these ideas, and I tested all the material with the buddy of mine who was driving to get down there.
Yeah.
And he didn't laugh and said, "You're not opening with that, are you?" He did all of those classic things.
Oh, no.
No, of course. But I laugh about it now, but at the time I was like, I've got nothing to go on stage with. So I went on, and it was hard, and an open mic where they've gone to see music and talk to their friends, it was hard to get their attention, which is very different to a stand-up night where they've come specifically to listen and what. So the first one, open mic, very combative, but it was I had to fight my way to get attention, and if they didn't laugh in the first joke or the second, you'd start losing audience members a lot quicker.
Wow. Did you have a lot in the room in the free one, or would there be about 100 people in, or less than that?
Whoa, no, 100. I would have.
100's asking a lot.
Yeah, I would have defecated on the stage.
Wow.
And I had, sorry. Here's the thing. It was an England versus Croatia game.
Right.
Going on in the other room. And so there was about 10 people.
So it was
that was
just
the
10.
first ever gig, which I didn't mind, because the fear of being lots of people not liking my stuff is different to 10 people. But in terms of understanding, I think that's helped my style of being able to be conversational and chat to the audience. Fill that time. Compare that to when I did a 10-minute spot in between 2 comedians down in Exeter, where I was at university. That one was brilliant. I brought lots of people wanted to come along and see me, so they came along. And I think I had props. I had prop gags, Rich.
It couldn't be better.
I don't think I've ever mentioned this before. I had a tie that I sort of wore, that sort of had, you know, one of those ridiculous long ties you get.
Yeah. I've got one.
One of those on. and I think the joke was something on the lines of, you got to dress up smart for your first gig.
Brilliant.
And then I went, that's not funny. Threw it around my shoulder, carried on. Like they laughed. And then later on, as I was moving, it fell forward again.
Oh, no.
And then what I did was I went, still not funny, and threw it back round again. So I was able to I think I learnt my style was to deal with things and react to stuff that was happening in the moment. And it went well. I survived the 10 minutes. People laughed. And the promoter at the time said, "Are you serious about this?" Which, not you're funny. Him just saying, "I'm serious about this." Because if you are, come back in 3 months, get another 5 minutes of stuff and come and test it. So that's where it started for me.
Were you there? You said your friend drove you to the gig. Did he go into the gig with you, or were you there on your own?
I was there with another guy from college who wanted to do stand-up comedy.
Right.
And we both said we would perform, but our other buddy Mike was the driver.
Right.
So he was the only one with wheels back in the day at college.
The reason I asked that is that I'm often asked, because I've got the loud laugh, I'm often asked to be the friend in the audience to go along to brand new comedian comedy nights. And a friend of mine had about 10 free comedy nights in a row, and by the 10th time I saw him do his 5 minutes, I was I knew the routine backwards, and the laughter, I have to say, was rather forced.
for those, and I'm sure, and I know it's been covered when you talk to Darren Walsh and Matt Richardson, brilliant episodes, and Joe.
Thank you. Well. Thanks.
People always talk about, Richard, your laugh and how you give us a kind of, here's how I've always felt it when I go to Always Be Comedy. I know you're going to be in the front row, and I know that you've got this infectious warmth, this vibe, this energy you give off, which is basically, I am here, I am so up for this comedy night. All I want you to do is to do well.
Yeah.
Here's what happens in my head. Well, now Rich has put a lot of pressure on me because a lot of this stuff I haven't tried before. And then after a while, your laughter is so... Some people haven't been to Always Be Comedy before. And if you don't know that it's a cult, you have heard it first. It's a cult. And people, new worshippers come on board and they're not quite warmed up yet. And by the end of the night, they're converts. They're like, yes, sign me up for this. I will see you next week. It takes a little bit of time. I mean, so your laughter is so infectious and so big that everyone in the room has to go, well, that guy's loving this show. I need to up my ante. So it's a whole mixture of things. And if I was to be a new to trying out new material, I would want probably silence as opposed to someone who knows they love comedy and they know what comedy's about. You're the choir master telling everybody else, this is bloody funny, you better get on board.
Well, that is very, very kind of you, because I've been in many an audience 5-10 years ago and beyond where there was loads of hecklers, the audiences were very bad and very indifferent audiences, and I thought to myself, it's exactly the same as what you've said. I've said this before, my blog is an enthuse to the brave heroes that get up there and do it, and to actually go and be able to go along and see it. We're not here to hear anybody else, we're here to hear the comedian, and we're here to have a bloody good time. It's as simple as that, you know. And if you're good, I hope I can demonstrate with the laugh or the cheering or whatever. I just love it, and I can't get enough of it. So thank you so much for what you say.
Oh, man, listen, mate, it's just Always Be Comedy is one of those gigs where once I'd seen what happened, the first night I went along, I remember it vividly because his name's gone out of my head. Where's the false teeth? The wig.
What's he called?
Exactly.
I know exactly who you mean. What's his name? Oh dear.
That's a little quiz question for everybody who's listening right now.
John Kearns.
Yes.
John
Kearns was on, and I watched James Gill MC, and he has got this energy, brings the kind of the clapping. I always mock him when I do Always Be Comedy because he takes the microphone, puts it underneath his arm, and then just claps really passionately and kind of like forcing you to get on board, which I like. And he makes everybody in that room feel like they are part of the night. But John Kearns, for a 20-minute set at the top of the show, ended up doing maybe 40 minutes because he refused to leave. And I was just like, what's happening here? You're a very funny guy. It's a hostage situation. And then I went on, and I just remember this love that Always Be Comedy gives you as a performer. Like, we're here to have fun. Just bring your A game. Just trust. It's a real trust place. And you, as you quite rightly say, you don't always get that.
Yeah.
So when I started, you had an open mic night. This is why you should pay attention to me. And then at a comedy night, you're proving to people you're funny. And Always Be Comedy is like, we are so happy we're all come together. Every gig's different. And I remember at the beginning, I had to learn how to tell people you should pay attention because I'm funny and I'm good.
It's interesting what you say, because wherever I go, I know my regular comedy club is Always Be Comedy, but I always used to sit at the back because I had the loud laugh, because I was not very confident, or you know, whatever it is, and then but it was Always Be Comedy that got me to the front row. And I thought to myself, this is incredible. And now, wherever I go, I'm always on the front row, and I do get recognised for it. I should ensure the laugh. So it's very kind of you to say.
Copyrighted. It's bizarre though, because some people say about the fact that I want to sit in the front row because I want to have I want to heckle the comedian at the front. I remember a girl that was so confident. She sort of said to me, "Oh, if I go to a comedy night, I'm sitting at the front. I want to see what the comedian's got when I give them a bit of stick." And I was like, "Yeah, but no one really wants that.
No, we're not here for that.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
no,
yeah, that's true. As well as a comedian, you've also been a radio DJ and a TV presenter. Tell me about those experiences. What was that like?
Well, if I compare them to stand-up comedy, there's similarities at times, and at the same time, a very different world to being a stand-up comic. Stand-up comedy, when I wanted to get into it, was all about essentially that I had this romantic idea. It's life on the road, traveling the world, traveling the country. You perform at night. The rest of the day's yours. Do what you want. Kind of sense like you're on the road, a proper performer. And TV and radio is very different to that. And every time I had a presenting job, or I was doing Radio 1, which you mentioned, it was almost like, because I had this tagline that said stand-up comedian, it almost meant that I had to constantly be funny. Like when you're a stand-up, people are expecting that constantly. So,
no matter what day you've had.
So I kind of, look, I'm very fortunate, very blessed to have still be presenting now and doing bits here and there. And what's it like? It's such a hard question. It's very different to stand-up. There's a professionalism that I had to learn very quickly, and that's not to say that stand-up comedians aren't professional, but you can get away with a lot more as a comic. You can throw a gig if you want because you're just not feeling it. Whereas when you're a presenter and you've got a whole team around you and they're all invested in this project you're doing, you can't just go, do you know what, I can't be F to do this gig, or do you know what, this crowd's right. You just can't. You have to stick with the agenda that you had on the radio show, or you've got a script that you need to follow.
You've got to follow it. Yeah.
So
it's fascinating.
Which I guess is why I always, when doing stand-up comedy, I wanted that element of chaos, or where's he going with this?
Yeah. You're off on tangents. Yeah. Brilliant.
Because there isn't a script. And actually, the first day, which I know that you'll appreciate as a Carlisle United fan, was the Johnston's Paint Trophy, Southampton, my team. And it was, I couldn't go to Wembley. Why? Because I was doing my first on-air show on Radio 1. So that always stays out in my mind. So I'm not saying, Rich, you were part of that, but Carlisle United versus Southampton, Johnston's Paint Trophy, first Radio 1 show, that day will stay for me for a long time.
Well, I'm
not
honoured,
for you, because you
apart from the result.
But for me, brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Thank you. Anyway, to date, what has been your best and worst gig?
Full stop, or question mark, should I say?
Yes.
All right, let's start with the worst gig ever. Because I learned, now I think back about it, I learned a lot that night. Cambridge Theatre, in the main room. I was with Avalon at the time. It was myself and Jimmy McGee doing our hour-long previews. Right. And it was the first hour show. And so the idea was, hey, Tom, it's not just the jokes. You've got to have a theme. It's got to be a theme. It's an Edinburgh show, Tom. There's going to be some serious moments in there, blah, blah, blah. I went into the venue and they said, oh, there's only 20 people in quite a big room. I think it held something like 200. All right. Okay, all right, that's fine. And then the technician came in, he goes, guys, to me and Jimmy, he said, don't worry, don't panic anymore. We've got 18 others just arrived. It's a stag do, and they are really up for a comedy night. They can't wait. I was like, okay, are they going to come and get into the room? He said, yeah, we're just waiting for them to down their shots. And then we're going to get them into the theatre. So we'll just be another 5 minutes before we start the show. Jimmy and I decided I'd go on first, do my hour. There'd be an interval, and then he'd go on and do his. Rich, I'm not kidding. I walked out to silence. So we'd forgotten to tell the theatre, you need to put music on for the introduction for the walkout. So I walk out to silence, hands are in the air to try and get a bit of energy, and imagine everyone's spaced out, all of these people, lots of couples, just spaced out.
Wow.
And then at the back row, you had 18 of these lads on a stag do, and honestly, I tried for 10, 15 minutes of, because one guy stood up at one point and said, "Just tell us a joke," and all his lads were laughing. And I was like, "Yeah, no, I will do, but this is a show," so I had to explain to them what was going to happen and do some gags. So I did my like 15 minutes of gags and jokes that I would do in a normal club set. I'm calling it. And then I tried to do the story. Nothing was happening. And I'm telling you this part for one reason. There was a couple of people in the room that had a carer with them, right? So they were in the front row and at the side. And one person who wasn't the carer, who was being cared for, was rocking back and forth at this awkward, like 10 minutes in, it was so awkward. They were physically rocking back and forth, which I could obviously see. I'm quite observant in the room. I'm watching everything. And I was like, they're having a horrible time. This is the worst. And even the carers trying to console them, right? They're rocking back and forth, having a horrible time. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Because I've got to do an hour. I was 2.5 years into comedy, doing my first hour.
Wow.
And I was like, what do I do here? In the back of my head, I'm talking to myself, what do I do? Do I just plow on through? They're not going to get this story. They're not allowing me to do a show. Then Jimmy McGee came on the stage on the wings and just stood there and just went, "Deco, get off the stage. You can't, this isn't a gig." And I racked my brain. I was like, I'm a professional. I can perform in any gig. I'll make this work. But part of me wanted to give up. So it's the first gig I've ever walked off the stage.
Wow.
And I said, "Look, guys, this isn't going to work." I tried so hard, Rich, to make them understand.
Yeah.
And then I walked off the stage. They got a refund. They were asked to leave. And then the technician guy goes, "So right, do you want to crack on and do the rest of your 40 minutes? And I was like, yeah, because they've gone now. This will be great." But I walked back to that room. The person that being cared for was still rocking back and forth.
Oh, mate.
Horrible. So here's the thing. Best gig, and I've had loads of brilliant moments at gigs.
Yeah.
But I went back, I think a year and a half later, tour support for Chris Ramsey, and we were in the studio room. Imagine that, Chris Ramsey in a studio room.
Fantastic.
And I was his tour support, and I told the venue, because it was the same place, what had happened the year before, and I went into detail, lots of jokes about it. This was happening, this guy did this, all of that. So the whole audience that I now had in the studio room were really enjoying this horrific story. And I said, "Thanks a lot, guys. This has been the best Cambridge gig I've ever done." Left the stage, and it was really, really good vibe, energy. And a guy came up to me in the interval, and he came up and he went, "Sorry, buddy, I really enjoyed that. It was brilliant." And it was brilliant because I was there a year and a half ago in the audience, and he said he was the carer of the...
Oh, fantastic. That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
Honestly, it was horrendous, not because of what you were doing. It was because of that audience behind and how awkward they made everybody feel. But I learned that when I went back out after the mini break from when the 18 stag do got asked to leave, I needed to address it. I needed to tell the rest of the audience that were left, "Guys, don't worry. I know I didn't seem funny there. I know it was awkward. I didn't MC my way back into that room." So I learned so much from that experience, and it also taught me that, look, any horrific moment that happens, you can find comedy and people will appreciate it. So so that's, I'm saying for today, because I could probably give you another answer for best ever gig, but that kind of is a bittersweet and a lovely memory now.
That is wonderful, because of course it is all about experience. The more you do, the more you know. Obviously that's just life, really. But with comedy, it's so difficult, as I said earlier on, just to walk out and to take command. Do you get nervous at all? Do you how do you deal with any nerves that you get?
Oh, by the way, I should just probably mention that the guy that came up to me in the interval did say that who he was caring for still thinks I'm shit. But how do I deal with nerves? I still get them. I think if the moment you don't get any nerves, then that you're kind of a bit dead inside, and then you will deliver a performance or a routine that is a little bit devoid of feeling. So I like to make myself nervous. I love to chat to the other acts. If I normally can chat to some of the audience that are walking in, sometimes I've done that for my Edinburgh shows, where I chat to the audience as they're coming in and go, "You all right? Welcome. Take a seat anywhere. Not there though. That's a." But I engage in a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And that helps me. But the nerves are good. I still get them. I get most nervous when I'm trying out new material.
Right.
If I'm doing 20 minutes, so the promoter's like, just do 20 minutes, you're closing, you're opening, whatever. I don't get the nerves. I get excited to perform to that audience and see what can happen. But if it's new material or I'm trying to crowbar it into a set, that's when I'm most nervous. And my girlfriend obviously often comments after the show and goes, "I could hear it in your voice. Your tone was nervous." So I think what's beautiful about stand-up comedy, one night you can see a comic and you think they're the best, bee's knees, like the best comic ever.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant night. You can see them a week later and something just doesn't click. It just didn't click that night. Same material, but just didn't work.
I've been there many times with different friends, and I'm recommending comedians to them, and we go and they're not laughing, and you think, well, this is hilarious, but they just don't get it.
But
yeah,
the joke isn't, it's how you create that environment. I've always thought, when you create an environment that is beneficial to comedy, you'll have such the better night. And even comics who I think they're good, but they're not brilliant, will look brilliant on those nights. And I think what that has always taught me is nothing's perfect. There's never a perfect performance, and there's never the worst ever performance. You kind of go, that was that live in the moment time. Let's move on to the next gig, or never. And that's taught me to be, hey, I had a brilliant gig last night. Fantastic. That means it works. But next night will be challenging and have a whole set of different reasons. And I might not be brilliant. So you're always striving to be better and to know how to deal with situations when they arise. So, yeah.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much for that. It really, because comedy is obviously very, very subjective, but some friends of mine, whenever we go to the Edinburgh Festival, I always design this big spreadsheet, and I say, well, there you are, that's what I'm seeing, and they can pick out exactly who they want to see, but the majority of the acts that they see are normally the same as mine, because, well, he's seen so many, he's very good, and I like a good mixture of it, but it's fascinating what you say about just moving on from gig to gig and gaining the experience. If we can talk about Edinburgh, you've been there many times. What was your first Edinburgh Fringe like?
As a punter, I went up and watched, and I stayed at Reginald D. Hunter. What, Klein? What about this? Who is this guy? 100 times. I stayed with Reginald D. Hunter because where I was at university in Exeter, the guy who ran the gig there, Dave Gardner, it was called Three Fat Fish, which was a brilliant comedy. It's not there anymore.
Yeah. He
knew Reg really well. He said, look, get yourself up here, go to the Argos when you get to Edinburgh, buy yourself a blow-up bed, like a mattress, just keep on the floor, just come stay for 4 days.
Brilliant.
You'll have such an experience. If you want to do stand-up comedy, get the experience from Reg and all the comics that came over for drinks and partying and
yeah.
What an experience that was of Edinburgh, and I got a real taste for it, and I was like, yes, please sign me up for this. I even did a Spank gig, late night show, which was great, and I said, this is what I want to do this. So the first Edinburgh that I did was for the Comedy Zone.
Right, so that's the three of them.
Yeah, I think that was called AAA. The Comedy Zone was in the Pleasance Courtyard. It was an Avalon-run gig. Some of the great comics that we love watching on TV have all done it. You know, like Al Murray's done it, etc. The year that I first went up, I saw John Richardson.
Wow,
fantastic! What a comic!
Yeah,
loved him. And he was on with Lloyd Langford, which I didn't when I saw the show. He just walked out in a banana costume, but never made didn't mention it once.
Brilliant.
I remember asking John Richardson, because he put a ticket on the door, you know, like, oh, this is a comedian that I've worked with down in Exeter. He's put a ticket on the door, mind blowing. And I said, what was the banana thing about? He says, oh, you know, it's just Lloyd being Lloyd. Beautiful.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, the Comedy Zone was again not all smiles and laughter. I'd been going the longest out of the acts,
Right.
And I was about to say who the acts were, and then I suddenly paused because I couldn't remember their names, which sounds horrific, but it's not. It's basically like we heard earlier when I was thinking of John Kearns. I couldn't think of his name.
Yeah.
Ellis James was on. Nat Lertsema, or as she asked every MC to pronounce it, Lertsema, who's a fantastic writer, brilliant comic as well. And you also had, oh God. Oh, God. And here's the thing, I lived with him in the Edinburgh flat. He was a brilliant comic. Actually, I performed with him at Always Be Comedy.
Another great comedian.
But he did. I haven't gigged with him for such a long time. He was a writer for Michael McIntyre, and he, oddly enough, lived the floor above us. It will come to me. It'll come to me. But here's the thing. I didn't really keep in contact with those acts afterwards, and I kind of wish I had. Obviously, I'd bloody remember the names. That he's going to be so furious.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you.
It's not every day that you're asked to talk about yourself, and this is such a long memory ago. I was headlining for the evening for the show. Ellis was comparing, and it's tinged with a kind of, because traditionally there is a night where you had to do the other act who you're on with material. It's a kind of tradition to do it. And because I was on in the second half, I remember this. And again, another life lesson in comedy. It was going so badly. The audience were wanting their money back. It was so bad. Nat Lertsma did my material and even took one of my hats out, because I used to wear a hat when I started, and tried to do this material. And then the promoter for Avalon, Emma Brunges, her name was, came up to me in the interval and said, please do some material. I didn't know how you've done all this one, but would you please do some material, because people are they want their money back.
Wow.
This evening is going back. And here's what I did. I went out and played corporate. I went with the corporate decision, which was Avalon on my management. I will do that. And then some of the older acts who were at the back of the room saw that I didn't play as everyone else had done. So therefore, I was there seen as being a bit of a scapegoat. Oh, he's a bit of a sellout. And I remember going up to the Brooks Bar like an hour later, because I felt bad. I didn't want to do material, but I've been asked by the people who were paying me, blah, 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 blah. And it was horrendous. So that Edinburgh marred me, because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing to different crowds each night. But then I was seen as this sort of sellout comic by my peers. So it was a horrible moment. Obviously, it got cleared up and everything, and I chatted to them. But yeah, so not that enjoyable. So when people ask me, it's not that magical as a performer, but as a punter, there's nothing better than Edinburgh Festival.
Yeah. I first went up in 2005, and I saw about 10 shows, and I'd put it off for about 5 years, knowing that as soon as I went up, I'd be going up every year since, which I have done. And I now go for a week, and I see about 50 odd shows in the week, and I need a holiday when I come back. You just can't get it. I can't get enough of it. It's just the best. Talking about your bad experience, there was a amazing story when I went early on. The comedian who shall remain nameless. Chris Durkin.
You didn't have to twist your arm much there. And by the way, Henry Packer was the other actor on the
Say again? Henry Packer!
Yeah.
We got there. We got there. That was the name. So this comedian, there was 3 of us in the room. There was a drunk in the front row. There was my friend who was a reviewer, and there was me. And he banged it on, and he realised there was only 3 people in the room. And he said, thank you so much for coming along. There's only 3 of you in the room. I won't bother with it tonight. I'll buy you all a drink. Thank you very much. And the bloke in the front row sat there and went, no, I've paid me £6. I want the hour, and he had to deliver, and it was. And I and I thought to myself, the show must go on.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful story.
Well, that's in the blog.
But it's true. It's. I think I've always felt as a comic, what is it that I want to do? Who am I doing this for? Who am I appeasing? And I learned early doors then that it's kind of, the feeling I had was, I feel like a sellout. I don't want to do my material. And bearing in mind, I'd not done it once, all the stuff that I was doing for that 20 minutes. But, and I've spoken to the comedian that made me feel like shit. I'm going to put it out there. because they left, went up to the Brooks Bar, started saying about my name, my integrity as a comic, just like, oh, what a sellout Tom Deacon was, giving it all the big one, he's headlining. I've never felt like that. I only said that I was going on last to explain the story later on, but it doesn't mean anything for me to headline. It just means I'm part of that night, and you know, etc. I don't have that sort of ego.
Yeah.
But I felt awful because they're my peers, and they're essentially saying I was doing my comedy wrong and calling me out on it. And Nat Lertzmer didn't enjoy that experience, the Comedy Zone. I know other comics haven't enjoyed it when they've gone up to do that show, for the reason it does feel like it's like a competition,
right?
And it felt like, therefore, by me not doing, I think I had to do Ellis James's material, right? I was therefore a sellout, and it made me feel horrible. But having said that, it doesn't mean I haven't had beautiful moments. I remember doing my Edinburgh show, which was about completing a sticker album, which I did do, but on a same venue the previous year. You get told when you're backstage, if you're at the Pleasance or a bigger paid venue, your techie will come up to you and tell you how many people are in the room before you even walk out. Right? So they came bounding up and they went, "Hey Tom, you've got 16 people in." Right? And I was like, "But okay, you seem happy. This room fits 80." I walked out, and I kid you not, Rich, those 16 people, I moved them all. I said, "You can't be sitting all over the place. We're coming together now as a team." I did parts of the show, but I also catered it so that it was fun for 16 people. Ended up doing mime cricket at one point. I got people up on the stage, which was not part of the show. And you know what? It was the best show, because everything that I love about doing stand-up comedy, it wasn't like a set script. I could go off a little bit and go, right, let's make this work. Still told the story. And it was one of the best gigs, and it wasn't a sellout. So maybe that comedian that had to perform that show, you never know, he might have thought that was the best show he did to one
That's a great story. That's really good. What do you think makes a good comedian? Is there anything? Is it a difficult question to answer?
For me personally, I feel like a great comedian on stage is a raconteur, is telling you stories about their life, or they're doing jokes. Even the best one-liners make you feel like you are getting an insight into their world. And then it's the pullback reveal, and you go, "Oh, you had me believing there for a second that you." So it's the sharing of ideas and thoughts. And for me, the best comics on stage are the ones that you want to have a pint with afterwards.
Exactly. I always look at it as there is another level where you get people who, we're talking legends now. For example, Eric Morecambe, where he just twiddles his glasses, or Tommy Cooper, or there's something more than just delivering stories or telling jokes, or they have to be, for me, they have to be endearing in some way. To make them, as you say, you want to go and meet them afterwards and have a drink with them. I think I'm very good at spotting that, certainly for myself, but with comedians, with friends who I go with, they always say, "Yes, we can see why you like this character, this comedian," and all the rest of it. And I totally agree with you. I think if you see that, it's magical.
And at the same time, the oddest characters off stage
Yeah.
tend to be the funniest on stage because of the character, the persona. And I'd say that I'm fairly boring off stage. I don't. Whereas in the moment when I'm telling about these stories, say it's that one where I was at Cambridge and it was a disaster gig, I'm selling that story to an audience and I'm making them feel certain things.
Yeah.
Off stage, I'm that person who doesn't like to talk for too long. So I'll be like, oh yeah, I was in Cambridge, worst gig ever. Yeah, got a headphone. Yeah, exactly, yeah, that's it. And I'm more interested in other people. I suppose that's why I tend to, or a lot of the time, get booked to MC because I take interest in other people and find the funny. So I'm not the raconteur really off stage that I am on stage, because I'm looking for material sources, ideas from what the audience bring me sometimes. So yeah, I think if you really, really like a comic, this is a warning, on stage and you love what they do, they're probably going to be boring off stage. So just be aware of that.
I may agree with that. I don't know. I haven't met anyone.
That's a genuine for Rich there. Because Rich, if people don't know, on the blog, which is brilliant, you'll find pictures with the comics, and it's always Rich straight after they've been on stage. When there's an interval, everyone's shuffling out of a tiny door. He's straight over there. Can I get a photo? And I imagine how they respond to that. You've almost noted in your head, what do I really think about this comic now? It is, how do people interact after the stage? I'm chatty to get to know people. Oh, I'm really glad you enjoyed the show. Tell me more about yourself. I'm reflecting off me. But yeah, Rich, I'm sure in the back of your head, Rich, you know which comics that you would go, I'll have a picture with them because they're really good and famous and that, but I won't have a pint with them.
Well,
you don't have to divulge. Don't divulge. I'm just putting it out there for everyone listening.
I'm willing to have a drink or a photo with any comedian going. I'm telling you that, it's wonderful. Right. Do you prefer? You mentioned about comparing. I've seen you MC Always Be Comedy in particular many times. Do you prefer comparing to actually delivering a routine?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah. I love it because I get to feel a real energy of chatting to people and finding if there's anything funny what they're saying and creating what I like, whether I'm doing a routine or emceeing, is creating a night, something memorable for everyone in the audience, so that we go, what a fun evening that was. It wasn't your run-of-the-mill, right, here's the first act, here's your second, ladies and gentlemen, good night. I want to find something magical that makes everyone in that room feel like, oh, that was something different, and oh, didn't we enjoy that? That was really good. And I would like to do that with if I'm doing a set or if I'm emceeing. So, but I guess I like that energy of being the MC, and you keep coming back out. So there's a bit more pressure on me. I've got to be liked throughout the whole evening. Whereas for the routine, you're on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that's it. The audience don't see you again. Whereas the MC, there's a bit more pressure on me to go down well at the top when I come back on again and again. So I feel like I've had a proper good workout by the end of it.
When I've met you after Always Be Comedy gigs, I've always said how effortless you make the comparing, and certainly how you banter with an audience. It's a great gift to watch someone who seems unfazed by it all, and you're very good at doing that.
Thank you very much. And what I've immediately done with a compliment is I've folded my arms. So they can't see this.
Body language, my friend.
Oh, that's interesting, Rich. I really appreciate that. Tell me more about myself. That's the opposite of me. I really like that, because what happens after a show is classic for every act that is performed as an MC. Knows that thing that's at the back of your head when you chat to the audience at the end. One of them's gonna tell me I need to do a routine. You know, you want to close or you want to open. You were the best. Yeah. That means I've done a good gig and I've emceed and I've encouraged everybody to sort of come out their shells a little bit. I've got great acts, but I'll be funny as well. So yeah, that's always in the back of my head. That's going to happen. But I do love it when people say that was effortless, because then I've done my job.
Well, you can see when you do it,
laboursome.
you seem to have a starting point, and you say to yourself, "I know. Let's see where we're going to go with this." And because you've got a willing audience, certainly at ABC, if you've got a willing audience, they will respond to whatever you try and develop. It's wonderful to see. It really is.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're all living in strange times. It's been a very difficult year. Have you done any online gigs, and is there a difference between online gigging and live gigging? What's your view on it?
I'm interpreting that question as, hasn't it been shit, Tom? It has been shit.
I'm trying to be polite, but obviously not. It's been awful.
It's been this year, 2020. Do you know, and here's the thing, now that obviously we're in 2021 and we're enjoying everything that's happening to a point, we're getting excited about those moments where you can go out again and start enjoying live comedy.
Yeah.
As I did that in 2020, Paul McCaffrey, fantastic comic, he was running some gigs down in the south where I'm originally from, and they were just magnificent. 50 people in a pub back garden.
Yeah.
Beers are flowing, we're having fun. Oh, gorgeous. And I was like, this is live again. Oh, I love it. I can watch body language. I can do this. You don't get that on Zoom gigs.
No.
And at the same time, where would we be if we didn't have those Zoom gigs? So I'm very, very appreciative for learning a new skill, how to be funny in a spare room with a microphone, talking to your laptop and not feeling insane. And at the same time, loving how you can connect with people. And so I found them to be challenging at times, and at other times, just my main issue has been being too loud. Even doing this podcast now, I know my girlfriend will be in the lounge saying, "You do shout sometimes," and you can do that. And then I'm envious of comics that I watch who proper shout, and I'm thinking, God, they don't have a girlfriend or a wife or a partner that's getting on their grill, like just really having a go at them off stage. So, do you know what, Rich? They have been absolutely fine. But I can't wait to get back and do live comedy, because I like the travel. I like the interaction with other comics and finding out what's going on and, oh, how do you get that gig conversation. So I miss it, but Zoom's given me a little taste.
Yeah. I always say it's much better than nothing, and thank God it's here, because I don't know how I would have got through lockdown without Zoom gigs. But by God, you can't miss live. I so miss going to comedy nights, either on a weekend or midweek. I go to a heck of a lot, as you know. But I saw those outdoor gigs of McCaffrey's, and I tried to get to one because it looked fantastic. And I haven't done many, but I really miss them, and I really hope to God they're back very, very soon. I really do, because you can't beat it. And who are your favourite comedians, past or?
The thing is,
Rich,
the thing is, they were like ticking time bombs. The later the show went on, the more drunk people were. Not in an aggressive or like stag doey way, but because we were allowed out and we could drink. You've got an attention span. Again,
if you went on last.
One guy, Paul McCaffrey's first live outdoor gig that I got to do, I watched the man get up, walk past me, because I was at if you imagine the pub garden is long and goes downwards, so all the audience is spaced out there. Everyone who needed the toilet had to walk past me on stage.
Oh, no.
So this guy gets up, and I went, all right, mate, I'll have a pint if you're going. Anyway, because I'm on last. He's gone past, then he's walked back again with a whole tray of glasses, proper stacked. And I went, I swear to God, mate, please don't spill that, otherwise the laughter that will happen. And he went, I'm fine, wobbling away. He was cut at this point. And then he starts playing up to it, because everyone in the audience, I've made them go, ooh, and he tries to put a good 8 glasses down on the table with a tiny little tray, and he did that whole whoa, and then he looked around, even did a little wave, then popped it down. All of them crashed. We're talking 40 quid's worth of drink.
Oh, mate.
And I did say, if you spill this, the gig's over. That's it, because I will not be able to follow that. And imagine it's crashed. Everyone's just roared with laughter, and I went, "Good night."
Yeah.
Fun. Real fun. You do not get that on a Zoom gig.
No.
You do not get that connectivity.
It's the live again. It's the spontaneity of it.
But you learned how to deal with it, and I can't wait to get back.
You and me both. I mean, just please come back soon, all of you.
Yeah.
A follow on to that. Do you have any favourite comedians, past or present? Can you pick any of them out? Does it depend on your mood? Who makes you laugh?
I don't make myself laugh.
Right.
That's for sure. No, I do. I think for me, when I was growing up, I think your tastes change.
Yeah.
In comedy, and it becomes a little bit more reserved, or it becomes a little bit out there, and it's definitely about what mood you're in. But I always liked, growing up, Jack D, one of my favourite comics. And then I got to work with him, and he's not anymore. No, I got to work with him. We were doing a Sky Atlantic show. I was on with Catherine Ryan and Phil Jupitus.
Yeah.
And Jack D was great, like working with your idol, and
he's a funny man.
Very funny, and just a persona that you can't even match. It's not my style, and yet that's why I appreciate him more, because he's so opposite to what I'm like. So therefore, I love that more. I couldn't do what you do, sort of style. It's changed. You know, some comedians I can't like anymore for certain things they've done.
Right.
But comedy, the tastes change. I'm really enjoying right now. I'll say this: I love Aaron Cheng.
He's brilliant. Yeah.
Oh my word! My girlfriend doesn't enjoy him, so I love him more. But I worked with him in New Zealand in 2019 at the festival, and he is a funny dude.
I've only seen him online, but he was hilarious. Very quick. I thought, yeah.
So that changes, and then I'll love watching. From that year, I loved Brennan Reese. I really enjoyed watching his show.
Yeah,
funny guy.
Yeah,
and and I think I guess less so that I like watching comics, TV comics, but then again, Always Be Comedy. You're live with Ramesh Ranganathan the last time I did Always Be Comedy, and you're just like, this guy's just effortless. Love watching him.
Yeah.
So but he's kind of like. I don't know, it seems like because he's attainable, because I sort of started and have gigged with him lots, I don't admire him as much. No, this sounds weird. If there's a comic that's on TV in America, I'm supposed to like them because that's what I'm aspiring to, but I will watch Ramesh and just go, that guy's so good, I'd love to be as effortless as him on stage. So I think you're inspired by every comic that you work with, to a certain extent, and I think I like someone like Ramesh more because I feel like I'm closer to being like Ramesh. Does that sound sort of?
No, it's what I love about watching you all is watching you all develop and over time. So because I've seen so much, Ramesh is a classic example of that. I saw him first perform, and he was quite timid, and then you see the confidence grow. Josh Widdicombe's another one. Harry Hill was another one. Way back I saw him. And Alan Davis was another one. I always remember I saw Alan Davis in a pub in Manchester, and when he was first starting out, and he was fearless. And the crowd were wanting to go to the bar next door for a beer. And he said, if anybody just wants to go along, I'll just carry on with the routine. And the whole room left, and he's talking to 4 walls, and they came back and he did another 10 minutes. It was incredible. And watching them all develop is a wonderful thing to see. And as you say, Ramesh is, I absolutely love what he does. And he's just so
naming one
effortless
comic
again.
that's naming one. You've mentioned Harry Hill, Alan Davis. I think I'm less. When I was getting into stand-up comedy, I watched every comic and just loved what they did. I wanted to emulate them. And then as time's gone by, I really appreciate those that I work with. I'm no longer looking to people that are putting hour-long DVDs. It's more I'm watching the guys that I'm working with on stage. So if trying to explain myself a bit better, I looked up to comics and went, I could never do that, and but I'd love to do it. And then you realize how good the people are around you that you're working with night in, night out with, and you can take more, I guess, from those guys as well. So
that's brilliant. That is so good. We're nearly done. I've just got one more question. Like me, do you watch any comedians as a member of the audience?
That is a very good question, Rich. I feel like it's a little loaded, isn't it?
And if not, why not?
I knew it was loaded. Okay, first of all, when I got into stand-up comedy, I was at university. Before then, actually, it was watching TV comics. I was always watching comedy on TV. Then it was knowing that it existed live. So when I was at college, I could go down to a venue called the Joiners had Git comedy on. There were places that I could go and watch live comedy in Southampton and try to go, but it was an age thing. Certain times I couldn't get in to watch. So then when I was of age, I went as much as I could, saw touring comics. I remember first month at university, Lee Mack was coming to Exeter.
Oh, mate.
So I went down to watch him, and he was fantastic. The warm-up was great.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Brilliant stuff. And then they even stuck around afterwards and got him to sign the poster.
Brilliant.
And I asked him,
yeah.
How do I become a comic like you? I was a proper comedy fan, wanted to meet the comics. And then there was a point where it feels weird. I know this sounds weird. It feels odd if I continue being a comedy fanboy. and I can watch comedy at gigs that I'll be on with other comics. I'll stick around and watch if I want to see what they're doing. But I feel, and it's quite sad, less and less do I go and buy tickets to go and watch comedy. And I'm ignoring 2020 and the pandemic and everything. There's often times where I say to my girlfriend, she often comes to gigs. She's a teacher, so she's like, "Yep, Friday night, let's go out. You're gigging. Let's go and have a few drinks. Let's celebrate whatever." I'll say we have to stick around and watch this comic. I love this comic, so I'm still a fan of comedy. I just don't go out and pay anything for it. No, I
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But it's sad, isn't it? It's sad. I think it changes. Like there's been a fair few times that I've been to comedy nights, or because I feel like that comic might know me, or I'm in the audience, I'll put them off. I've done that before. Luke Tolson in Edinburgh, first year I was on, it was my mum came up. She wanted to come and see the show, and we sat at the back with the amazing, I'm going to test you now, amazing comic, Australian, wrote Matilda.
Tim Minchin.
So the three of us, and I'm including my mum as a comic, are sat at the back of this small room, seats 50 people, and Luke Tolson stopped at one point, and he went, "Do you know what? That this gig's going well, but it's not as good as it was last night, and I've got Tom Deacon and I've got Tim Minchin in the back of the bloody room." Typical, putting me right on the spot. So I always feel like sometimes as a comic, you don't want anybody in the room. My biggest fear is knowing that I'm a comic. It's almost like I've gone to watch to kind of test them and find a flaw when I haven't. So sometimes it's easier when you're on the same bill with that person, then you can get to really watch them. That's my excuse anyway, Rich.
When I was in Edinburgh one year, I've told this story in another interview, but I know the guy who runs the Free Fringe, and I said to him, I'd like to have a go at stand-up comedy, and he put me on. I've only done it once, and he put me on a it was an old folks afternoon at in a little tiny pub in Edinburgh, and it was a gong show, so if you were rubbish you were gonged off. And I wrote this script out, and read it to him, and I was nervous as hell, and I bounded out and I said, ladies and gentlemen, first line of my act, ladies and gentlemen, people think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the ski jumper, but I can't see the resemblance myself. Now, when I first went to Edinburgh, I was this double, and I thought, it's a fail-safe, it'll get a laugh. And somebody in the back went, "Fuck off," and booed me off, gonged me off. So I walked off to my footstep, and the guy goes, "Go on, have another go." So I went again, same thing happened. And I said to him, never say never again, but I think my best place is in the audience because I'll support them forevermore.
Yeah.
And that's the point of what I'm trying to say. I think, you know, you do an incredible job to entertain us all, and it's just fantastic to watch. So thank you.
Rich, I know you're wrapping up. Wrapping up. But I feel like Kanye West with Taylor Swift now. Can I just say this? Okay, can I just say how good Beyonce is? No, I would like. I think sometimes us comics, and even you watching, will know that we get sometimes stuck in a little rut, or things aren't quite working out, and you need to change your perspective. And I do sometimes forget how much I do love stand-up comedy, because I see it not just as my work, it's my craft, what I'm building towards. Like there's things I want to do. Due to 2020, I was going to do my first ever solo show that was going to be recorded on Next Up. They haven't called back for this year, but anyway.
They will do.
And I was so excited because I felt like that was a point in my career, because I've gone on to do presenting and done it at the same time. I was kind of like, oh, that's why I haven't done a DVD or haven't done that. I was offered one early doors. My agent at the time was like, nah, that they've offered too little, blah blah blah. So we didn't do one. But there's opportunities and what have you, and I've sort of always felt that at times when you forget how much you love something, and you doing this podcast and doing the interviews are able to remind yourself why you love it. And I think every comic needs to sit in the audience sometimes and actually go, oh yeah, you laboring a point on it. Let's not forget you're there to entertain and excite people and make good nights. So I do every now and again, I just, do go and sit in and watch it and remind myself, this is why you love it. Now go and write something better and create magic. Okay? So it's good. It's good to have a different perspective. And like you say, you went up on stage and you tried it, but that isn't why you love it. For me, it worked out that way. I love stand up. And then I was like, wow, I enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
But you get to, you know what you like. Maybe every now and again, Rich, ABC comedy.
Never say never. Well, I get up and do the songs. Just one more final thing. Have you got anything else that you want to say? Have you got anything that you're doing? Are you writing any books? Are you plugging anything online? Anything that you want to plug or
you sound like my family now, Rich. What are you doing? We're worried about you. There's a lockdown. Are you making enough money? Can you pay rent? Yeah. What am I doing? Well, at the moment, it's all waiting for gigs to start up again, and when Zoom gigs come about. Working in esports, it pays the bills. Right. Waiting for a few things to come along, like F1 esports. During the first lockdown, did virtual Grand Prix, so they had sports personalities get sent a rig. So esports is about get the gaming world. But at a top professional level, so you're really bloody good at it.
Yeah.
And with F1, you have the wheel, the pedals. It's a simulation, so it gives you that sort of feedback. So we had the likes of, like Stuart Broad, a cricketer, Ian Poulter, Sir Chris Hoy, all competing. So hopefully that will come back again in the next little bit of time, and hopefully be doing that. And then it's just trying to find motivation. I think it's very hard for everyone right now to find the motivation. We have the time on our hands, and yet we suddenly go, can't be bothered. So I'm trying to stay in a good mind space, and it's hard. Everyone's finding it hard, but you've got to be optimistic. Maybe I will get that special for Next Up, and then I'll start having to practice for that.
I'm certain you will, and thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Because I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. It's been absolutely fantastic.
No,
Thank you so much, my friend, and I wish you
Cheers,
every
Rich.
success.
Yeah,
You
and
take
also,
care.
Can I say none of what I said is true? So thank you very much for having me. Take care, Rich.
All the best.